At last, we return to the Porterverse Workbench. This episode will focus on the one and only Red Snapper, who is a background hunter. Technically, he's an official OC of mine. Well, yes and no, as he's just meant to be a background ninja as put into the backgrounds of videos to fill up space. He's not meant to have a character in it or anything. But he does have the name Red Snapper, as I felt that given his livery, suited him pretty well. And that he's meant to be more of a dockyard shooter than anything. So yeah, now then, let's jump into how I made this oddity of a model of Red Snapper. Alright, so, it was around May of 2022 when I first came up with the idea to build a Red Snapper. I found myself wanting to build a dockyard shooter out of basically nothing, just from scratch, you know? And I never attempted anything like this up until this point, and I just happened to have a bunch of model parts lying around on my desk. So I began saving through all the parts, and I picked up what would work best. The body is from a Bachmann Thomas shell, and the chassis is sourced from my old O6 cell I found on eBay. So the assembly was bound to be a bitch, so I just put on some Thomas VHSs in the background, and I got to work. The elephant in the room is obviously the chassis, as the body had a lot of overhang over the chassis. So I took an old solder from another model, I bent it and screwed it into place to support the back half of the body shell. I then took measurements and designed and 3D printed a running board. And after gluing everything down, I used some index strips, painted them black, and glued them to the sides of the bent side rod to make it look like the chassis is extended to give it design unity, you know? Which makes it look a lot better in my opinion. Since the running board was a little bit off in its measurements, I took a Q-tip, I cut it down, and I used that as the back running board buffer beam. And then use an index card that was folded with masking tape and use it as the buffer beam. That was kind of weird, but yeah, it works. So after all the building process was done, I got to painting. I primed the boy with some brush-on gray acrylic. I recommend using actual primer, but this does work if you have this on hand. And so after about a day of drawing, I went to town with a Barn Red acrylic by Delta Creative. So what I did afterwards was Apple Barrel's matte black for the smoke box, cab windows, and other details. After that, I went with a silver Sharpie for the cab windows, and I used a tiny screw for the whistle. I know it looks weird, but like I said, background engine, so. And then also used a bell from a busted Bachmann O6 though. Then I went back with the black paint and did the lining, using toothpicks and very tiny brushes. And I was constantly going back and forth between the black and red colors to ensure the line was neat. After that whole ordeal, I painted the wheels black. I then designed and 3D printed a smoke box door, as this was a Bachmann Thomas, so it only had a face, and I wasn't planning to use a face for this. So a smoke box door would be needed. After it was printed and everything, I lined out the hinges in silver, glued the thing onto the front, coated the thing matte clear, and boom! Red Snapper's complete. He isn't powered sadly, but he does free roll. Sort of. I do really like this model, as it's one of my first scratch builds, but I would like to redo his chassis in the future, hopefully power him as well. I also wanted to give him some buffers eventually. That'd be a really nice addition, I'd say. But for now, Red Snapper serves his purpose as a background hunter. But we're not done yet. We still have another model, what I like to call my theme park Gordon. This is in the same league as that dummy Tommy's unit I made a while back. And I like to imagine this Gordon ran on the same line as that dummy unit. However, after Roy went defunct, it'll be sold to a theme park instead of being left abandoned. And the theme park repainted his engine into new colors to get rid of the Thomas licensing, as they didn't have the rights to it. Instead, they gave it a new chassis and put it to work on their theme park's railway. And it served, not much known about it, but it was believed that it served pretty well until around 2012 when the theme park shut down. And of course, like the last unit, Thomas would eventually stumble upon this dummy unit abandoned in around 2014. So hence why it's in a dusty shape. So yeah. This kind of story of this dude. It's made from an all-engines go Gordon, which I took apart and changed the chassis and painted everything different colors. Self-explanatory, you know. But before you go, I do want to shed some light on other projects. I have now finished Patrick's Rock, and now Pecan Street is fully complete. Super proud of these. It's all 3D printed with resin, and it's super nice. Really love it. I also have Murdoch and Kenji in the works as well. Kenji should be arriving in the mail by the time this video goes up, and Murdoch is set to arrive within a week or so. And I am very excited for these models. I've been wanting to make this guys for a long time. Super excited for the future of this series. Oh yeah, I also have a TikTok page. So Go follow me there. I post videos occasionally there. Pretty fun. Thank you all very much for watching this episode of the Porterverse Workbench. And I'll see you all in the next one.